Hey, welcome back. I'm Adrian, and this month I read 7 books. So let's get right into it. The first book I read was called The Hunter by Kerrigan Byrne. This is a historical romance. This is actually one of my favorite romance books ever. It was a really special story about an assassin who is contracted to kill this lady who's an actress, and they fall in love along the way as she's trying to protect herself and her son from someone who's trying to kill them. So instead of killing her, because he starts to develop feelings for her, he actually becomes her protector, which is double entendre because it's like a physical protection, but also back in those days an actress would have a protector. If you've ever watched Bridgerton, you would see that mentioned by the Sienna character in season 2, but pretty much what it meant was because women weren't married at that time, they needed someone who would kind of be their protector to stave off unwanted male attention. But they would really just be in a romantic relationship, and she would essentially be his mistress for the protection of his money and security. So in this story, I think it was really interesting because it had themes about motherhood. So without giving too much away, this assassin, Christopher Argent, he was born in a prison to a mother who was imprisoned, and his mother was a sex worker, and that's what she had to do to provide for him. And so he had he didn't find that to be a weird profession or judging or anything, but there was this he thought that Millie, who is this character who he just can't forget about, he thought she might be a sex worker, and he comes to find out that she isn't, and along the way he also falls in love with her. And so I think the first time you read this, there is no way to predict all the plots, the plot twists in this, who the villain is, like the true villain, and who the way that the assassin, even the story about the son and the mother. Like I said, this is a true story of motherhood, and I won't say more than that because it's going to give too much away, but I definitely think that this is a really good read, and this is a memorable series in general. So this is book 2 of a series that has about 7 books, and I read the whole series a few years back, but this is the one that I always come back to because I just think that amount of romance is there in this one, and I think it's really special. So the next book that I read this month is called 12 Nights as His Mistress by Miss Eliza Braden. This is book 5.5 in the Rescued from Ruin series, and I hadn't read the series before, but I came across this book. I think I always come across books on promotion, and so I'll buy them for a low cost or for free. And so I thought I'd give this a try, but specifically this one was a novella, meaning it's less than about 200 words, I think is what's categorized as a novella. So if you're looking for something short and sweet, maybe you'd like to try this one. I only gave it a 3 stars because it definitely wasn't a 4 or 5 for me. I don't know that I would read it again. I didn't feel like it was a waste of time, which is why I didn't give it less than 3 stars, but I don't think it was something I'd read again. So I thought this book was special because basically Charles, the male character, or it could have been special because Charles, the main character, was trying to use 12 nights to convince Julia, someone who he was deeply enamored with, that they could really make a true marriage if she gave him 12 nights. But I think the speed at which the book moved, like the story had so much potential, but it was just too short to be able to develop it. Like the premise could have done something special, but if you want something really quick, something with a few steamy scenes, sure, have at it. So the next book I read is also in that series, Rescued from Ruin, from Eliza Braden, and this was number 7 in the series. This one is called Anything But a Gentleman, and this is one of my favorite tropes. So there was this there's a club owner or gaming den, I like to call back then, which is like a forbidden place, right? So it's like, for some reason, these women find themselves there, and the males are like, usually they either have no interest in this woman, who is usually very, prim and proper and virginal, and then they also run a den of ruin, gambling, smoking, drinking, all the vices that men were allowed to engage in that women were not allowed to engage in at that time. So I thought, okay, there'd be potential for that there, and then the specific part where the woman comes in this case is where she's trying to come in to get the club owner to convince the person who promised her younger sister marriage and got her pregnant. He's trying to get him to get his act together. Augusta is the lead female character. Her younger sister, the male that she was courting her, he goes to Mr. Reaver's club, and he has this huge gaming debt. So Augusta goes to Mr. Reaver to try to get him to call in the debt, and he says no. But he says, okay, I'll give you the debt, or I'll call in the debt if you become my mistress. And so she actually surprises him by going along with this plan, and that's where the romance begins. And of course they fall in love happily ever after. That's why we read romance books, okay, let's be real. And I think it was an okay book. It was a full-length novel this time, but I still think it missed something special. It had the potential, and I get really wary. I give them a chance. Books that are 5, 7, 10 books in a series, I give them a chance, but I feel like almost every time I get let down because the author is almost like run out of steam, like the writing, even when the story, like you can tell they pencil out the plots of the story, but the fine detail that really makes the romance yummy, some of that is lackluster. So I think that's what happened here, and I only gave this book a 3 out of 5. So the next book that I have is a children's book, and this one is called The Dwarf Giraffe, and it's written by Daniel Dowie. It's illustrated by Rajiv Chatterjee, and I think this one is a really cute book. The premise of this book, just working on kids and their self-esteem and their differences, and celebrating that is always welcome. And I think this book was special. I gave it 5 stars. I thought the animation style was really special. It's not one that you see commonly. Sometimes you open a children's book and it just looks like the same pictures, maybe a different color palette, a different topic, but the pictures look the same. But the illustrations were really nice and clear, colorful. I think that the author made a choice to keep copy or text only on one side of the book, and I thought that was fine, but I think that resulted in some of the text being too small. I think for children who are 5, 6, 7 years old, who might be at this reading level, and I think that they could have put copy on both sides and increase the font size so that it could be easier for children to read, especially at night time, before bed, low light, and all of that. So I still think that this is a wonderful book. I gave it 4 stars, and I think there's still room for improvement. I read this in a digital copy, and I know that Daniel Dowie self-publishes, so maybe this is something that she could improve. So I think that this is a really good book, and I think it's something I'll read with my daughter. Also, I think if you have children in ages 5 to 7, it has a couple words in there that are challenge words that you might have to pronounce for them or help them with first, which is, I don't think, a bad thing. I think it's good when children can learn a little bit or learn a few words, because then they don't get super bored when they read the story through, because all the words are easy. So for example, one of the words is acacia, like they talk about an acacia tree, and I think there's room there for learning as well as having fun with the story, and talking about important things like self-esteem. Alright, so this takes me to the next book, which is one of my favorite reads that I read this month. So this one is called Rasta Santa. I think it is the cutest thing. I want a print copy of this. I only have the digital copy. It might still be free on Kindle right now, so if you want to have a look at it to review, you can go ahead and do so. So this is written by Daniel Dowie and illustrated by Adela Haskova. And this specific book is talking about a Rasta Santa. So in Jamaica, it's obviously Jamaican, and all the colors are there, the representation is there, all the cultural things we love about Christmas time in Jamaica. So we talk about domino playing, and we have a ganja mistletoe on the cover of the book. The illustrations aren't, I don't think, super polished, but I think it's perfect. this Rasta Santa, you know, he has a cart and he goes on a boat, a little ship, like almost like a fishing boat that you see in a fishing village, and he brings gifts. So at Christmas time, for a lot of Caribbean people, Jamaican people, you get barrels, you get remittances sent from abroad, and you get clothes and toys sent in barrels that come by the wharf. And I thought that was a really great and apt inclusion in the book, and I just think that the story was so cute. I want to have this out at Christmas time so that I can have people who come over read it and we just have a little discussion starter. And even though it's an illustrated book, it is an adult book because it does have the Jamaican B word in there. But I definitely think that if your children are old enough to understand that they shouldn't say that word because it's a bad word in Jamaica, they could read it too, I think. But that is left to parents' discretion. But I definitely think that this book was just really, really fun, and I gave it 5 stars. It's something that I am gonna read, you know, at least once a year. And the best part about this book was the author has narrations available for free, so you can listen to the English version and you can listen to the Jamaican or patois version of this. And in the copy, in the book, they are written side by side, English and Jamaican, so that persons who aren't familiar with how Jamaican is written and spelled and pronounced can see the comparisons, the juxtaposition of language. Because Jamaican is a language, it has its own rules for grammar and syntax, etc. So you're able to see that, and I think that was super special. We don't see that enough in cultural books representing Jamaica, but also in fun books, not just academic, you know, Jamaican books. So again, I spent a lot of time on that one. Even though it's a short read, I think it's really special. You should check it out. The second to last book I read this month is The Secret Lives of Baba Segi's Wives. The Secret Lives of Baba Segi's Wives. This was my favorite book that I read this month. This was amazing. I think that, well, obviously I gave it 5 stars. So it's a story about these 4 women who get married to this man, Baba Segi, and it's from a Nigerian author. It's in a Nigerian context, and it is a special story because it tells you about what's happening in a polygamous marriage, and also what's happening in Nigerian culture with these 4 women and their individual backstories. It tells us about their children, it tells us about the husband, it tells us about people in their direct sphere. And so the stories in there are hilarious and also tragic. There's a lot to be said for the way that the author uses language. She sometimes is very crass in her descriptions of the man, or in the things that the women, the wives, did, and how they treated each other, and how they treated him, and how they thought about things, and their own individual reasons for marriage, and their individual reasons for having children. And so I think I did not pick up the plot twist. Speaking with different people, some people pick it up pretty early, but I think even when you pick up the plot twist, there's a reason to read until the very end to see what happens with the wives and what choices they make. And I think that this is the kind of book, it wasn't too long, it was super entertaining, and I definitely want to plug the audiobook, which I listened to, because I'm not Nigerian, and I definitely got a good feel for the names of the characters. So Bolanle and Iyasegi, Iyafemi, Iyatobe, Baba Segi, understanding the pronunciations, the Nigerian names, which I don't have any context for, helps me to understand what's going on a bit better, and the mannerisms and the tones that the author used to narrate just really brought the story to life. It was a very entertaining audiobook, so you should check it out if you want to read. And this is not a new book, by the way, and it's been lauded over time, but I just find it's the kind of book that if you picked it up almost 10 years ago when it was first published, and even know that it's still very entertaining, and the themes are still present in society today, and relatable, like the things that the women, the choices they make and why, can be very relatable. So I don't think it's for sweet. If you're very prim and proper and get a little bit concerned about curse words and some crass language descriptions of sex, maybe this is not for you. But If you're just really interested in real life, and it's not a horror, it's not a thriller, I don't enjoy those, but you can definitely get some hard life instances happening here, but nothing too much. If it was, I wouldn't be able to bear it either, but I definitely recommend this book. The very last book that I read this month is one called Courting Danger. So this book I gave a 3 out of 5. This book I gave a 3 out of 5. I was kind of disappointed. So this is from the author Wendy Vela. The series specifically is the Sinclair and Raven series, and this series started a few years back. I think I read some of the earlier installments a few years back, and it's about it's one of those supernatural stories where this one aristocratic family saved the lives of another. This is also a historical romance novel, and ever since then they've been intertwined, and they are almost bound or doomed, depending on how you look at it, to marry. Sinclairs marry Ravens. They save their lives, and then if you save your life, chances are you're going to end up marrying them. So it's all like a bunch of siblings and cousins who are related by marriage. It's a little bit strange, but they find a way to make it work so that it's not super incestuous. But the premise of it is there's supernatural, there's some power happening, some magic, and it was really entertaining to read in the first few installments. And earlier in the book, so this is book 8 out of 10. So essentially 10 siblings in this family all marry this other family who are all cousins of each other and siblings, and half siblings and so on. And so it gets really interesting. I thought it would be interesting to read this story, particularly about Somerset, who is one of the twins. She's one of the 3 youngest of the Sinclair siblings, and they actually one of the 3 youngest, and they actually start this investigative firm together. And so she saved one of the Ravens' lives, and she's super resistant about like liking this person and marrying him and all that, but the writing's on the wall, and I think they could have done so much more. I think I think they could have done so much more with the banter. I think that's one of the things I enjoy the most about romance books. And in the earlier series, when I got excited about the twins, the youngest siblings, they were really smart, really witty. They knew a lot of fun facts, and they would challenge each other, and they would get challenged by their older siblings. And I just felt like the guy that she was with now is like a professor, and we didn't get enough of that, like what it could be intellectually. Like they could have showed more of those intellectual like meetings of the minds and the attraction there, and I thought that was lacking a little bit. But I mean, it was fine. I didn't feel like I wasted my time, but I also don't feel like I'll read it again or recommend it to anyone per se. So that's why it's a 3. It's right in the middle for me. And one of the things, the Dorset is a twin. Somerset is a twin with Dorset, who's the next book 9 is for. So even though some of this happened around what was centered around what happened to Dorset, I feel like this book didn't even make me like super want to read the next book. I think for me, series, I both love and hate them. I love them because when I really enjoy a book, I don't want it to end. So if I can pick up the next book of the series, like I will pick a series anytime if it comes highly recommended, because it prolongs that feeling. But if it is it's like it can also be disappointing, because then sometimes I feel like, am I just gonna read the next book just to complete the series? And I don't hate read books. I don't have time for it. I don't hate reading. So I'm still considering reading the next book, but honestly I might not. I don't know if it will be worth it. And that's so sad, because even the person that the twin is going to get with is the brother of Gus, who is the male character in this book. So I mean, even knowing the setup there, and I'm still not like, I need to read this, I feel like that's not good. So let's see. But I'm already reading books that I won't finish until March, so those will come in the March list, and I'm just super excited to read more. I'm in this book club. I'm behind on the book club readings. I'm in 2 book clubs. I'm behind on the second book up reading, but I'm doing some of those now. There's no pressure for me, at least, because that book club hasn't had any meetings per se. But those are Black authors, and I'm super excited for those. So anyways, what did you read this month? Let me know in the comments, and I will see you next month.